If I had $1,400 and I had to start from scratch, what kit would I buy? That's basically what we'll discuss in this video. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to need to take a look at is the heart of your filmmaking YouTube kit, and that is the camera. The camera that I'm going to recommend is probably the easiest camera I've ever used, and that is the Sony Zv1. Coming out at $750, this is going to be a quite considerable amount of our budget. However, I really do like the Zv1. It has a great flip out screen, 4K video, fast autofocus. This is by far the easiest camera to use, and that's why I recommend it for the majority of YouTube creators. From there are a few accessories we're going to need to buy for the Zv1 to get it up and running, and that at first is going to be an SD card. The one I recommend is by Lexar, and I do recommend getting a 64 gigabyte size to start off with. This gives you about an hour worth of recording time. Now, if you want more than that, you can just up your storage size, so go ahead with that. However, 64 gigabytes is plenty. We're also gonna need to make sure we have a few extra batteries on hand. So there's 3 batteries for $21. Highly recommend just picking those up. So if you're vlogging, you always have some extra batteries on hand. So while the Zv1 is great on its own, there is one big problem that I found when using this camera in day-to-day. And that is anytime you have a tripod, you can't actually access your SD battery slot. It just stays stuck. So one way to work around this is by investing in a little camera cage. And what's great about this little guy is towards the bottom, it moves the tripod mount off to the side, so that way we can open our SD card. So putting on our tripod, we still have access to our battery and SD card. So quickly and easily we can swap these and not have to worry about taking off the tripods. I do recommend picking this up for that purpose alone. It also gives you a little bit of grip, which is handy for people who have slightly larger hands. It gives you a little bit more weight too, which I do like. The fourth accessory I recommend picking up, especially if you're vlogging, is this little tripod. So this is a great little thing to have. If you are vlogging, you can hold it out, get a little bit more distance. Also, you can just set it down as a normal tripod. Moving on to accessory number 5 is our microphone. This is going to help us get a little bit more extra audio quality. The built-in microphones on the camera, they're okay, but if you really want to improve your audio, I do recommend getting a little external mic. What I love about the Rode Video Micro is it doesn't need any battery power. It simply plugs in straight into the Zv1, and you don't have to worry about turning it on and missing audio quality. Plus, it comes at a price point of 50 bucks, and I think it sounds pretty decent. So boom, we are recording, and this is what it looks like on the Sony Zv1. We're shooting at 24 millimeters. This little Gorilla Pod gives us a little bit extra reach, and I think it looks pretty decent, and this is the audio quality test. Let's actually unplug the microphone so you guys can hear the difference. So now you're listening to the Zv1's internal microphone. How does it sound? And now we're back to the Rode Video Micro. So it is a tiny little improvement, but I do think it is well worth it. One thing people complain about the Zv1 is you can't really get a wide angle. So this is most important if you are vlogging, if you want to show off that background. So there's yet another accessory for that, and that is this here wide angle lens. So this one comes at a price point of $50. It's a little bit more expensive, but the optics are really good and has a few tricks up its sleeve. This attaches to the front of your Zv1 with a little adhesive filter thread, and then you can actually screw this on, and that is the wide angle. So it does help a lot. And the major advantage to having this wide angle means we can throw on the active steady shot. Throwing on to active actually crops into the image, so this wide angle nicely compensates that. So you're still getting a slightly wider image, but it's a heck of a lot more stable. It's almost like you don't need a gimbal, which is really nice. This little lens also has a little trick up its sleeve. If you remove the front attachment, it turns it into a macro lens. So I can get this really close to my eyeball here, and you can see it's in focus. It's really nuts. So if you're doing anything macro related, this is a really handy tool. So yeah, for 50 bucks, you get a little macro adjustment and a wide angle. So this is the basic vlogging setup. If you're out and about, this is what I would recommend to get started, and you pretty much don't really need anything more than that. If you really want to take it the extra mile, you can look at getting a little LED light. This one is by Aperture, and what I like about this one, as you can see, it's an RGB light, but it also acts as a regular LED panel, so you can use this to light yourself if you're in a dark environment. It's not the most flattering light, but it does get the job done. However, if you plan to use this for studio uses, I still recommend picking up this little LED light for a number of reasons. You can use it as a hair light, which looks really awesome. You can also use it to light up products and use that RGB function. There's also different lighting effects. So if I turn this on, cop car, fire, there is also a party mode, like here. So overall, it's a really handy and fun piece of kit, and it costs $110. So now moving towards building a YouTube studio kit, let's talk about the first thing you're gonna need to get set up, and that is a basic tripod. The one I included is a really cheap Amazon Basics tripod. Nothing's fancy about this tripod. The only thing it's good at is going to be holding your camera and positioning at the right height. But for YouTube, that's pretty much all you really need if you're looking and talking directly into the camera. You might want to pan down to show like a product or something, but really we're not doing any sort of camera movements. So that's why I went really cheap with this Amazon Basics tripod. So one of the most important things of a studio is to have good lighting. So we're going to start off with the very first basic light you should own is a softbox. So I recommend taking a look at this softbox. It comes at a price point around $35 to $50, but what's great about this softbox in particular, it comes with a light stand, it is dimmable, and it is by color. So this allows us to choose which color temperature we want and also to control the brightness. And at a price point of $50, you're really not gonna find anything else on the market that's this comparable. There are some higher quality solutions, but you really would have to get into the $200 to $300 range before you would see a noticeable improvement. So just getting started, we're gonna go with this $50 softbox. So we have our key light, we have our background hair light, and also lighting up products. The third light that I'm going to recommend is a background light, and that is going to be the newer 660 RGB. Now this is our most expensive light, but what I like about this one is basically it's a really souped up version of this Aperture MC. It's going to be brighter, have way more output, and also we can have different colored backgrounds, which is really cool. So I recommend picking up one of these panels to get started with as your background. If you want to learn more about this light, I have a full review right up here, so go ahead and check that out. We are going to need a couple of light stands to hold up our Aperture MC and the newer 660 RGB panel, so go ahead and pick up these two light stands by Neewer that are $30. And the last addition to lighting that I recommend is picking up a 5-in-1 reflector. This has a multitude of uses. You can use it as diffusion using the inner part of the reflector. You can use this to balance light. You can even use it to block light. This is incredibly handy, and it's not that expensive either, coming at $20. So I've had mine for several years and I always find it to be a very useful tool. I also recommend picking up a reflector holder so that way we can put this reflector onto a light stand. So go ahead and pick the reflector holder while you're at it. So we got our lights, we got our stands. We also need to take a look at getting a microphone stand. While we could put the microphone on the camera, it's not gonna sound best if we are more than 2 or 3 feet away from the camera. So we wanna get this microphone close to us, so we need to get it off the camera. So this microphone sound by Ola Music comes at a price point of $35, and this is going to help us position the microphone so it's just out of frame. We can get as close as possible, and we're going to ensure getting the best audio quality. So in order to attach the microphone further from the camera, we're going to need to pick up a little audio extension cable. This one's 10 feet long and only costs $10. An additional accessory that's going to make sure you have the right colors in your video is a gray card. And this one only costs around $8. And I think it's highly worth it. Even I brought a more expensive version of a gray card to ensure I get the best colors in my video. This will ensure that you're shooting at the right white balance, and it's super simple and easy to use. So go ahead and pick that one up while you're at it. Whew. So that is the entire YouTube startup kit. I know it seems like a lot. It may be overwhelming if you don't know what each kit does, But don't worry, I have another video that's going to show how to use this actual gear to put it into use and get you the best looking video quality.